So we signed last night for a really cool loan, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it today. Now, a lot of people don't realize a VA loan can actually be used to buy an investment property, but you got to live in one side. So technically, VA loans, you can buy up to a 4-unit property. The signing we had last night was a 2-unit, so it was a duplex. The veteran is actually moving into one side and going to be renting out the other side. Now, this is a super cool loan. This is one of my proudest moments as a loan officer just for what we actually got for the client. And that's what I wanted to walk you through today. So looking at this whole thing was really just kind of crazy. The way the client and I met was at a networking event, started talking about investing. He wanted to buy his first home, wasn't really sure how to. We started talking through it. He was planning on getting a couple buddies together and going conventional, buying their first duplex, living in it together. Now, what we ended up actually doing was going VA because this client was a veteran. We were able to get him into a VA duplex. Now, the benefit of using VA to buy a duplex is that you have a higher DTI, or your debt to income ratio. Now, most loans, if you're FHA or conventional, you're going to be maxing out around a 50% DTI. VA actually based on what's called residual income. So what they do is they take what you make and they say, hey, how many people are in your household and where are you living? So in this case, west, east, north, south, whatever that is. We're in California. This is west, and there's only one person in his household. So he doesn't, not married, no kids yet, and nothing like that. So the residual income required for him in order to live is only a couple $100s a month. So he's allowed to have a much higher debt to income ratio than if he were to go conventional, which is what made this work. Now, looking at this, obviously, we want to do what's best for the client. We don't want them in something they can't afford. He does have enough reserves to last him a couple months if there's no tenants or anything like that. That is a requirement as well. But what was cool about this loan, we actually moved in. We were able to get a $20,000 credit up front, asked for it when we made the offer. Buyer went with our offer over 3 other people. I was able to call the seller, excuse me. I was able to call the listing agent and let them know how solid this loan was. At this point in time, we'd already had most of our documents. We'd sent it through TBD approval, so a to be determined location. The approval was done and underwritten, so we knew we were clean. We were good to go. Now, the way this all broke down was really cool. So we got the offer accepted. We got a $20,000 credit up front. Once we got the appraisal and inspections back, now this home actually needed a lot of work. So we got back the pest inspection. I was able to use the NPMA 33 instead of using a full pest inspection. The buyer was fine with that. And the realtor that we had working on this, Garrett Sarantakos, was awesome. He was actually able to get them to clear the entire pest inspection for us, even though we didn't need it all done. That NPMA 33 called out some termites and some stuff that needed further inspection. I was able to push through with underwriting. They said, hey, just get us a cleared NPMA 33, get the termites cleared. They didn't ask for any of the dry rot or anything else done, but this realtor was able to get that. So he was not only able to get us the $20,000 up front, but also another almost $17,000 worth of pest work done for our client. Now, this is awesome because our client, a VA client buying a duplex, was able to come in with almost nothing out of pocket. That's right, nothing out of pocket. It was a 0% down, buying a duplex. He did put it out on EMD because he chose to. We didn't have to technically do that. And he actually got all of that back except for $200. And that $200 was just to pay for the transfer tax. Now, with that $20,000 credit, we were able to pay all of his closing costs. We were also able to buy down his rate about 1%. Now, where this gets even cooler is we got the inspection back on the roof, and it needs a new roof. Now, the appraiser didn't call this out. We don't need this for the loan, but obviously it's in the best interest for the buyer. So we actually talked to the sellers and they were able to get more of a credit. Now, where this gets confusing, if you're in a VA loan or if you worked with the VA lender, technically there's a maximum of a 4% credit you can get from the sellers. So on a $550,000 house, the max credit we're able to get is around $21,000. Unless you know the rules. And this is awesome because technically when you're using a VA loan, that 4% credit only applies towards certain things that they're paying. The funding fee, discount points over 2%, or if they're paying off any of the buyer's debt. Now, we were actually able to get a higher credit than that $21,000. We ended up with a $25,000 credit and used all of it to pay all of his closing costs as well as almost a 2% rate buy down. So this loan closed at a 5.875, $0 out of pocket. Well, sorry, $200 out of pocket for the buyer and $17,000 worth of pest work done on top of the $25,000 credit. Now, he is looking at a 67% DTI ratio because we were able to use residual income instead of having to go with a conventional loan. But obviously, he's making a lot of that back in rent, and he has a buddy living with him, so he's not paying the whole thing himself. So he's set up in a very good spot for this to be a very long-term investment. So if you heard this and you didn't know you could do any of that, that's the benefit of working with a great realtor and lender team, is going above and beyond just having a home to purchase, but actually doing the back end research, figuring out what's possible, and having someone put in work for you as the buyer or the client. And that is what you pay for, especially with all this craziness happening with NAR. That is what you're paying for a good buyer's agent. They are worth their weight in gold, as well as having a lender that communicates and goes above and beyond to make sure they're getting what you want in the house and goes through all the options with you up front. Because if you're a veteran, or even if you're not a veteran and you're looking to buy your first duplex, work with someone that knows the ins and outs, because it can massively change what you can get and how much you're going to spend on these things that could be massive long-term problems. Well, but if you have a good team working for you, this could be absolutely worth it. So you want to talk about it, hit me up. Everything's linked below. Looking forward to talking with you.